Welcome back, everyone. Today we're not going to talk about sudden twists, hidden enemies, or breathless chases. Today, let's calm our souls and sit down on the porch of Huyen and Diem's wooden house to witness a new beginning sprouting from the most barren of lands. After that emotional visit to their elderly benefactor, a new fire has been lit in the hearts of this young couple, not a fire of hatred, but a fire of creation. They've decided to turn this desolate hill into a true paradise, where the way home isn't just a path, but a vibrant journey of flowers. But behind those straight rows of vegetables and brilliant flower beds, is there a different calculation born of survival instinct? Let's listen to the story of the secret garden and the flower path hiding traps right now. The old motorbike carried Tone and Diem back to Sim Hill, just as a deep purple sunset began to descend, blanketing everything in a quiet, somber peace. The engine cut out, returning the space to the sound of wind whistling through the mountain crevices and insects buzzing, calling out to their mates. Diem stepped off the bike, her heart still fluttering with emotion from the meeting with the old woman. She looked at the empty patch of land in front of the house, where weeds still grew wild and sharp catia stones lay scattered. Suddenly, a fierce desire for change welled up inside her. She turned to Tone, her eyes sparkling like the starry sky, and whispered, "Honey, let's not let this hill stay boring like this forever. I want to feel peace every time we come home and see the house. Let's make a huge vegetable garden, and for that dirt path leading from the gate, I want to plant flowers on both sides, so when spring comes our way home will be the most beautiful path in the region." Tuan looked at his wife, then at the dry earth beneath his feet. He didn't speak right away, just nodded slightly. But inside his head, the gears began to turn. Not the mindset of a simple farmer, but that of an architect, or maybe even a military strategist without him even realizing it. The next morning, before the fog had even lifted, the rhythmic sound of hoes and shovels woke the entire forest. Tone took off his shirt, revealing toned muscles, sweat rolling down his bronze back. He didn't just hoe the ground randomly. He planned the garden into square checkerboard plots with a drainage system that was intricate but incredibly scientific. Diem followed behind, holding packets of seeds she had saved up to buy at the last market. She sowed mustard greens, spinach, and yard-long beans into the soil. She sang softly as she worked her clear voice, refreshing Tone's soul, making every strike of his hoe feel lighter. But what made people most curious was how Tone handled the path leading to the house. He didn't just flatten the dirt. He spent the entire afternoon picking up large rocks from the stream, carrying them heavily on his shoulder up the slope to stack them into 2 stone fences along the walkway. Diem wondered aloud, "Why go to all that trouble? We just need to plant flowers in the ground." Tuan stopped, leaned on his hoe, looked into the distance and said, "Honey flowers are fragile. They need rocks to protect them from the storm. Just like us, we need solid protection." Tuan's words sounded simple, but if you looked closely, you'd see his way of stacking rocks was anything but normal. The rocks were staggered, creating small gaps, just big enough to see out, but making it hard for anyone outside to see in. And the flower path Diem dreamed of Tuan deliberately designed it in a zigzag shape, not running straight to the door, a design that limits the vision and speed of any intruder. Day by day, the barren land began to transform. Tender green vegetable sprouts began to poke through the soil, trembling in the early breeze. On both sides of the path, the cosmos moss rose, and daisy seeds Diem planted began to sprout, covering the gray soil and stone with a layer of hopeful green. Diem cared for every sprout like a newborn baby. Every morning she woke up early to carry water for them. Every afternoon she meticulously picked off every worm. She imagined the day these flowers would bloom, creating a brilliant carpet to welcome the couple home every sunset. But while Diem was lost in that romantic dream, Tone had his own calculations. Every night when Diem was fast asleep, Tone would walk alone around the new garden. He checked the stability of the stone fence. He calculated the angle of the moonlight on the flower path. He secretly buried small fishing lines amidst the thick bushes connecting them to empty butter cans, hidden deep in the brush, a primitive alarm system perfectly camouflaged under the poetic beauty of the flower path. One afternoon, when the vegetable garden had started yielding its first harvest and the first cosmos buds were opening, something strange happened that will leave you all curious. It was drizzling. Diem was bent over picking mustard greens for dinner when she noticed something unusual. In the corner of the garden where Toan had planted ivory bamboo for decoration, the soil showed signs of being strangely disturbed. It wasn't scratching from a dog or cat. It looked like someone had buried something there. Curious Diem took a small trowel and scraped away the topsoil. She was stunned to see that underneath wasn't tree roots, but an old rusty metal box, carefully wrapped in multiple layers of plastic. She was about to call Toan, but then hesitated. She remembered the cold, sharp look in Toan's eyes during those nights he stayed awake on the porch. She remembered how he stacked the rocks like a fortress. She asked herself, is this garden, this flower path, really just for beauty? Or is it a maze, a tactical trap that my husband, her amnesiac husband, was unconsciously building to prepare for some upcoming war? Diem filled the hole back up with soil, her heart pounding in her chest. She decided to keep silent, but from that day on the way, she looked at the garden changed. She felt that those beautiful flowers seemed to be hiding prickly secrets, and that winding path didn't just lead to their house, but also into the deep, mysterious recesses of Tone's past. That evening, as the couple sat down for a humble dinner with a plate of boiled vegetables picked from their garden, Tone placed some greens in Diem's bowl. He smiled and said, "Our homegrown veggies taste so sweet, don't they?" Then he looked out at the flower path, swaying in the night breeze, and continued, "When the flowers are in full bloom, I'll make you a swing right under the old tree, at the alley entrance, so you can sit and watch them." Diem looked at her husband's gentle smile, feeling a mix of warmth and confusion. She didn't know if the man sitting before her was Toan, the gentle farmer who loved his wife, or a wild wolf hiding in plain sight, waiting for his time. And that metal box under the bamboo roots, what did it contain? Gold keepsakes or a deadly weapon? The story of Toan and Diem's vegetable garden and flower path doesn't stop at its romantic beauty. It is gradually peeling back new layers of mystery. Every tree planted, every stone placed seems to carry a meaning that only Toan's subconscious understands. And when the flower season blooms, that is also when strangers begin to sniff out the unusual changes on Sim Hill. Will that beautiful flower path be enough to stop the footsteps of those with evil intent? After so many storms, after the chases of the past, and the secrets buried underground today, let's put it all aside to immerse ourselves in a new chapter of Toan and Diem's life. These are the days people call the unforgettable days, not because they are tragic, but because they are so peaceful, they make your heart tremble. Have you ever asked yourself what happiness really looks like? For Tone and Diem, happiness doesn't lie in the skyscrapers or luxury cars that Tone once owned in his fading memories. Their happiness now smells of freshly tilled earth, has the green color of vegetable rows. and the sound of crisp laughter in a country market. So let's brew a cup of tea, sit down and listen to the story of the love song of earth and people for the next 20 minutes to see that sometimes peace is the greatest luxury. Dawn on Sim Hill always arrived earlier than anywhere else. While the milky white mist still clung to the ancient tree canopies and crept into every wooden crevice of the small house, the young couple's rhythm of life had already begun. No alarm clock was needed. The clear crowing of the rooster from the newly reinforced coop woke Diem up. She rose gently, pulling the thin blanket over Tone. Watching her husband's sleeping face in the dim light, she felt her heart soften. The worry lines on Tone's forehead seemed to have relaxed, replaced by the serenity of a man who had found his harbor. Diem tiptoed to the kitchen, rekindling the rosy fire. The crackling of firewood mixed with the bubbling of boiling water created a soothing soundtrack for the morning. Today was the main market day, so they had to get up earlier than usual to harvest the vegetables for the freshest shipment. When the aroma of boiled sweet potatoes filled the house, Tone woke up. He stretched, filling his lungs with the pure mountain air, feeling vitality flow through every muscle. He stepped out into the yard, the morning dew soaking his broad, bare shoulders. Tone went straight to the water tank, splashing his face with the ice-cold water piped in from the stream. Fully awake, he didn't eat breakfast immediately. Instead, he took a walk around his estate, a garden that just months ago was a wasteland full of weeds and gravel, now completely transformed by their hands. Rows of lush green mustard greens ran straight as ribbons, vines of yard-long beans hung heavy in the wind, and especially the cherry tomato patch was ripening red like rubies. Tone bent down meticulously, picking a worm hiding under a leaf. His eyes shone with pride, not the pride of a conqueror, but of a creator. Diem called out from the kitchen, her clear voice echoing across the hillside. "Honey, come eat a hot potato before we go to the garden." Tuan smiled and walked inside. Breakfast was simple, just sweet potatoes dipped in sesame salt and a bowl of fresh green tea. But they ate with gusto, as if enjoying a royal feast. While eating, Diem calculated how many bundles of greens to cut, how many kilos of beans to pick. She knew the market prices by heart, knew which onions the Po lady liked, and which squash the rice shop owner usually bought. Tone sat listening to his wife, occasionally nodding and throwing in a joke that made Diem giggle. In that moment, the mysterious past or the uncertain future seemed not to exist. Only the warm present beside the kitchen fire remained. Breakfast finished, the couple headed to the garden together. The sun began to peek out, casting honey-yellow rays onto the dew-covered vegetable carpet, making it sparkle like it was dusted with diamonds. The harvest moved rhythmically like a well-rehearsed dance. Tuan, with his strength, took on the heavy lifting pulling root vegetables or carrying large baskets. Diem, with her skillful hands, trimmed and bundled the vegetables into neat, uniform bunches. She used soft bamboo strips to tie them gently so as not to bruise the stems. The swish-swish of the knife, the thud of footsteps on the earth, and their brief exchanges created an atmosphere of spirited labor. Tuan watched Diem, bent over the rows, her conical hat tilted cheeks flushed pink by the morning sun. He found her more beautiful than any woman he had ever met in his fragmented memories. He suddenly realized this very simplicity had saved his soul, pulling him out of the nightmares of the wild wolf. When the sun was high as a pole, 2 overflowing baskets of fresh vegetables were neatly stacked onto the old motorbike. This bike might look ugly on the outside, coughing and sputtering like an old man, but it was their most loyal war horse. Tone carefully strapped it down with bungee cords. Tuan double-checked the straps to make sure they were secure, then signaled for Diem to hop on. Diem sat behind him, wrapping her arms tightly around her husband's waist, resting her head lightly on his back. She inhaled the familiar scent of his sweat mixed with the raw, earthy smell of the vegetables. The bike began to roll, leaving Sim Hill behind, winding its way down the red dirt road. The mountain wind whipped against their faces, cool and refreshing. On both sides of the road, patches of wild sunflowers were just starting to bud, signaling that autumn was coming. Tone drove slowly, pointing out a new bird's nest high up in the trees, or commenting on how crystal clear the stream looked today. They didn't talk about Bill's food or money. They talked about the beauty of nature, about the joy of simply being alive. The district market today was as crowded as a festival. The vibrant colors of ethnic brocade outfits mixed with the red and blue of merchandise created a lively living painting. Tone found their familiar spot under the ancient banyan tree to set up. As soon as they unloaded the vegetables, familiar customers swarmed around their chatter, buzzing like bees. Oh, the Sim Hill couple is down. What good stuff do you have today? Give me 2 bunches of mustard greens. The ones I bought yesterday were sweet as sugar. My husband couldn't stop praising them. Diem greeted the customers with agility, her hands swiftly sorting and weighing vegetables, her smile as bright as a flower. Tone stood beside her, helping bag the produce and give change. His tall, stoic, yet gentle demeanor made the market ladies love to tease him, saying Diem was lucky to have such a helpful husband, or that Tuan was the luckiest man on earth to have such a capable wife. Sales went surprisingly well. Their vegetables weren't used with stimulants and were watered from the source stream, so they didn't look as shiny and oily as the imported vegetables. But any gourmet could tell at a glance that these were clean, organic greens. In just over 2 hours, the 2 baskets were more than half empty. Diem smoothed out the crumpled small bills, dirty but smelling of honest labor, and carefully tucked them into the fabric pouch at her waist. Every time she sold a bunch of greens, her eyes sparkled with joy. Not out of greed for money, but because she saw her husband's hard work being appreciated. She saw their lives stabilizing day by day, hour by hour. When the sun stood directly overhead, the market crowd began to thin, and the vegetable baskets were empty. Tuan asked Diem out for lunch. They didn't go to a fancy restaurant, but stopped at a roadside stall, selling hot steamed rice rolls ban kuon. The old lady making the rolls had trembling hands, yet the rice sheets she made were paper-thin, topped with fragrant fried shallots. The couple sat on low plastic stools, sharing a plate of steaming hot rolls dipped in savory sauce. Tuan picked the best piece of cinnamon pork pate and put it in Diem's bowl, urging her to eat to regain her strength. Diem kept pushing it back to him, insisting he did the heavy lifting and needed to eat more. That simple act of yielding to one another caught the eyes of those around them, making everyone smile in admiration of the poor couple's love. After eating, Tone told Diem to wait a moment and ran off somewhere. A moment later, he returned holding a butterfly-shaped hair clip, studded with sparkling stones. It was a cheap item sold at a sundry stall, but to Diem in that moment it was more precious than diamonds. Tone clumsily pinned it onto his wife's long black hair, stepped back to admire it, and nodded in approval. Diem blushed, touching the clip lightly, her heart overflowing with happiness. Amidst the hustle and calculation of the market, their love remained pure and innocent. They didn't need grand vows of eternal love. A simple hair clip and a caring look were enough to understand each other's hearts. On the way back, They stopped at a grocery store to buy some salt cooking oil and a kilo of dried fish to save for rainy days. The motorbike strained to climb the slope again, but this time it felt lighter because it had shed the burden of vegetables, carrying instead a load of joy and hope. Tone drove while humming a nameless tune. Diem, sitting behind, hummed along. Their singing echoed through the vast mountains and forests, dispelling all fatigue. When they arrived at the gate, the sun was setting behind the western mountains, casting a brilliant red glow over the garden. The chickens ran out clucking for food, and the black dog wagged its tail furiously to welcome them. Tuan parked the bike, gazing at his peaceful wooden house, the lush green garden, and his wife busy putting things away. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction that he had never touched in his past dreams of a wealthy life. He understood that peace isn't the absence of storms, but knowing that when the storm passes, you still have a place to return to and someone to love. Their lives drifted on peacefully, like that day spent hoeing the earth market days spent selling goods, saving every penny to build a future. But my dear friends, as the old saying goes, the calmest seas often precede the fiercest storms. While Tone and Diem were immersed in that simple happiness, they had no idea that their appearance at the district market with their fresh vegetables, and specifically Tone's unusual aura, had caught the eye of some people they shouldn't be involved with. Rumors about the farmer with the killer eyes began to spread in the district's underground world. And more importantly, among the small bills customers paid with today, there was one bill marked with a strange symbol that Diem accidentally missed when she put it in her bag. What does that symbol mean, and how long will these peaceful days last? The story of Tuan and Diem's idyllic life pauses here today, leaving us with a sweet but anxious aftertaste. Cherish the peaceful moments with your loved ones because we never know what tomorrow holds. Thank you for listening. Please hit like and subscribe to continue accompanying Tuan and Diem in the next dramatic episodes. Goodbye and see you again.
Này mới tầm 30 giây được không?